Hi guys, this is Ben with TSS. Today we're going to be touching on the National Firearms Act, or NFA. This is the set of regulations that governs the sale and transfer of suppressors, of machine guns, of short-barreled rifles, of AOW category firearms. And I just want to inform some of you guys, many of you are very familiar with the National Firearms Act and the ins and outs of that. Some of you may not be. So especially with all the new shooters that we have, I want to touch on a few things because you, lo and behold, could end up accidentally committing a felony without even realizing it. So one thing that I've heard people talk about is, let's enforce the laws that are already on the books. But I want you to know that some of those laws are really arbitrary, dangerous, and you need to be aware of them so you don't get yourself in hot water without knowing. So one of the things that's been often talked about is the arm braces. So there are a number of AR pistols on the market these days. This happens to be a 9mm CMMG. One of the things about the National Firearms Act is the AOW category. And any other weapon applies to a number of things, including firearms that don't really look like firearms. Let's say a 12 gauge inside of a mag light, or a pen gun, or a cane gun, or firearms that don't necessarily fall into another category. Like, let's say if I put a vertical foregrip on this AR pistol, I would actually be creating an any other weapon classified item. So that requires a tax stamp and the same paperwork. The difference for an AOW is it's $5 instead of $200, as most tax stamps are. But I could put an angled foregrip on this and it would be absolutely fine, not subject to the National Firearms Act. But instead of the angled foregrip, if you go with the vertical foregrip, well, I hope you did a Form 1 and registered it, because otherwise you just committed a felony by manufacturing an NFA item. That sounds kind of ridiculous, right? Well, what if this had quad rails? What if I used a grip pod, a vertical foregrip that has a bipod in it? Well, that's actually not okay. Now, why is that not okay? Well, this was something that was passed in 1934 in the wake of lots of gangland violence during the Prohibition era. So they wanted to control these gangster guns, and so they came up with lots of provisions and regulations that made it deliberately cost prohibitive and difficult to acquire an NFA regulated firearm. So this is the very cool HK SP5K pistol. This is a roller locked 9mm pistol, similar to an MP5, but this is a pistol, and this is obviously not full auto. This is only semi-automatic. So we have a large format pistol that by itself, while it's a really, really cool gun and really neat, really pleasant to shoot, it's also a little bit difficult to control something like this because it's a little bit too heavy and awkward to really shoot it as a normal pistol. But you can't just go throwing some kind of a stock assembly on there. That would be making this a short-barreled rifle. If it's a rifle, which is really anything that's got a buttstock on it and has a rifled barrel, the barrel must be 16 inches in length or greater, and the overall length has to be 26 inches. Anything below that is going to qualify as an NFA item. So this, right now, is a regular pistol. You can buy it, take it home today, no big deal. Putting a vertical foregrip on this would make it an AOW. Putting a buttstock on it would make it a short-barreled rifle. Now, if you wish to buy something like this and then complete an ATF Form 1, that would make you the manufacturer of the item. So you're still going to have to pay a $200 tax stamp, and you're going to have to register it, and then you're going to have to get the receiver etched conspicuously with your name, city, and state, or the name of your trust if you have a trust, and you're registering it in the name of the trust rather than yourself individually. It's a lengthy process. I think the wait time right now is right around 8 or 9 months. So it takes a while after you've paid your $200 and completed all the necessary paperwork, submitted fingerprints, photographs, etc., to make this into a short-barreled rifle. So another thing about National Firearms Act items, with the exception of suppressors, let's talk about, say, machine guns or an SBR. If you have a short-barreled rifle, you can't just go to the Knob Creek machine gun shoot and take it along with you. You can't just take your SBR on a hunting trip. Prior to doing so, you have to fill out a travel form and submit it to the ATF to tell them where you're going, how long you're going to be there, and where you're going to travel through. So you have to basically have approval to transport your items across state lines. Keep in mind, you also have to be familiar with that state's laws or any state laws that you're passing through, because you could be in violation there. While most states currently allow NFA items, many still do not. Here's just one example of a suppressor. This is a Gemtech GM9. So why would a device that protects your hearing be unlawful, or why would it be unlawful without acquiring the appropriate paperwork? Well, suppressors are still regulated under the National Firearms Act. Recently, a lot more attention has been given to the legislation that's been proposed, the Hearing Protection Act, which would take suppressors off of the NFA registry and deregulate them in terms of the National Firearms Act. You would still have to do paperwork and undergo a background check and acquire them the same way you'd acquire any other firearm, but the Hearing Protection Act could get these removed. We're very hopeful about that right now. We think that might happen, and why wouldn't it? You know, in European countries that have outrageously strict gun control laws, some areas require or request that you use a suppressor. They think of it simply as a firearms accessory. It's polite. So one thing that we're very hopeful about is over the next few years to be able to go after some of these nonsensical, arbitrary laws, and we actually have a chance at making a difference and deregulating some of these items. I'm strongly hoping that the Hearing Protection Act will go through, and I think it's got a good, honest chance. But now is not the time to relax and be at ease and think, okay, we're okay for the next 4 years. You know, that's exactly the opposite of what we should be doing. We should be taking the offensive, so to speak, and going after some of these regulations that are really unfair and, in my mind, unconstitutional. And plainly, un-American. If you want more information about the Hearing Protection Act, check out silencerco.com. They've got great information and have really taken initiative as a company to support our rights as Americans and deregulate the suppressors, aka silencers. Check out silencerco.com, contact your local congressman, and let us know in the comments what you think about the Hearing Protection Act, and let's all band together to make a difference and let Americans have shooting accessories that we should have access to. This has been Ben with TSS. Thanks for joining me. We'll see you next time. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.